Good morning, everybody. All right. I see we've got another GIF in the chat. It's exciting. But welcome, everybody, to From Discovery to Decision, New Tools to Win More Buyers, the G2U Edge webinar. I'm Andrea Youmans. I'm a Principal Product Marketing Manager here at G2, and I'm joined by Ryan Perkins, who is a Senior Product Manager at G2. And so we're very excited to talk to you about some new solutions to win more buyers. Part of this session you might recognize because I'm going to be reusing some information from our recent mini masterclass that unpacked highlights from G2's 2025 buyer behavior report. But before I jump into the content and the agenda, I just want to do a little housekeeping item. So we are going to be recording this session, so don't worry if you have to leave partway through, or maybe one of your colleagues, you find this interesting for one of your colleagues, don't worry, you can listen to this afterwards. It'll be posted on our website. You can also pop questions into the Q&A. So you can see over on your screen, there's a chat, there's messages, and there's Q&A. So pop those into the Q&A. That way, I've got a couple of team members here with me that are going to be monitoring the Q&A, and that way we can either answer them as we go, or we can save them to the end, because Ryan and I will be answering questions at the end of this session. If there's something that we don't know, because I'll be honest, Ryan and I are fairly new to G2, so we don't know everything yet. I will say yet. So if we don't know anything, don't worry. We can save the questions. We can send them to your CSMs. Your reps can follow up, or you can follow up with anybody at G2, including Ryan and myself. I'm always happy to answer questions on LinkedIn. So don't worry if we don't know the answers today. We will get them for you. So I think with that, just make sure to pop them in the Q&A tab. You can also chat along the way. We'd love to see all the chat going. But to kick things off, if you guys want to put in the chat versus the Q&A where you're coming from, where you're tuning in from. I'm coming from Central Washington State, so I live in the middle of the state. And Ryan here is coming to you from Tennessee. So welcome to the webinar. We're very excited to have you. Let me share my screen, which I realized I wasn't doing. I see that now. All right, let's see. This one, let's share. Now you can see our pretty pictures on the slide. All right, let's get going. Hit next here. All right, so what we're going to cover today, and unfortunately or fortunately for you, if you've been on a webinar with me before, I'm going to be talking the majority of the time, and Ryan's going to be going over some new features. So we're going to go over key insights from the 2025 buyer behavior report, how, especially with large language models, are shaping software discovery and the buying journey, why G2 reviews give you an edge, and then we're going to show you how we can help you get discovered in the new AI world, right? Why are we talking about this? Why do we launch some of these new features? Is because AI is changing how buyers are researching today, and your reviews and strategy we want to make sure your reviews and strategy are visible and effective. So let's jump in. So you may have read this newer report. It's the 2025 buyer behavior report. We've just put it out a few months ago. I'm bringing that back into the conversation because it helps us pull together how you can think about your review strategy in the new AI world. And I'm probably going to say that a few times today. So if you have coffee, water, lemonade, whatever you're drinking, have a drink every time I say buyer behavior report, because it's going to come up a few times. So let's dive into what that report said. The buyer behavior report, there it is, reveals AI search is now a top method buyers use to research software, especially, and you'll see those purple bars, especially in organizations with over 5,000 employees. That's surpassing traditional sources like Google, vendor websites, and peer referrals, which is really how a lot of us used to look and find information about different softwares that we wanted to purchase. So I've gotten a lot of questions from customers asking themselves, like, is my team prepared to be visible in the AI search context, like large language models? And a lot of them they're thinking about it, right? Just like this technology, I feel like, is moving at lightning speed. And so they're thinking about it, but maybe they haven't actually come up with a strategy on how they can get their information or their reviews or the information about their products out there and coming up in the large language models. So it's an AI first environment, and reviews aren't just a nice to have anymore. And so we'll talk about that a little bit of, like, how can you build your profiles on G2 as well as get more reviews so that you're coming up in these AI searches. And so for companies with over 1,000 employees looking for software, large language models and peer review sites are beating Google when it comes to where they go to search. research new solutions. So you'll see the theme, it's going to continue to grow, and we're here to kind of help you strategize how you can make sure that your information is coming up in those searches. So when we take a closer look, we've also noticed that vendor shortlisting has also changed in this new era. And buyers are relying on a variety of different sources, both traditional, and think of traditional as being kind of like SEO traditional, and now AI generated content. And so I would call that traditional versus emerging. So the top influencers that you can see on this slide are Gen AI chatbots, which I never would have thought that. When I saw this report, I was very surprised by that. Like, I think it's also, when you say chatbot, some people get confused about what that means, but essentially it's like when you put any information or ask any questions in a ChatGPT or a Gemini or a Copilot, where those tools are synthesizing data and vendor information in seconds versus what you used to do, which would go to Google. I mean, I remember, I'm going to age myself a little bit, but like my parents would be like, this thing called Google, Andrea, it's so amazing. You can ask it any questions. Now it's actually even better. I mean, in my opinion, right? Because I can go and just ask a natural language question and it will pop up a bunch of different summaries versus me having to search through all those different links. So that's really where the people are going. You can see that there are other things like peer review sites like G2 or vendor sites, market research firms. We know who those people are. They're still doing some of that because there's still good information out there, but really how it's happening now is people are just going into Gemini and just typing in a question and getting, a bunch of answers. So what's important is that Gen AI chatbots are now kind of in the mix, right? And that's really, again, when we say chatbots, sometimes it's confusing. Like, think of the ChatGPTs that you're using today to ask questions. And they're often the first touch point now. Like, I don't know how many of you have your Google settings or whatever Chrome, browser you're using. I love to get that AI summary first. And then if I don't find that helpful, or if I do, I'll click on the citation and I'll go to the page that's sourcing from. So if your reviews aren't optimized for those types of tools, you're invisible at a critical stage of the buying journey. So what does that actually mean? That means that there's a new front door, similar to kind of how we thought about Google and SEO in that traditional sense. Now we have large language models. So large language models are becoming the new front door for software buyers, and that means that your reviews have to be AI ready, right? Structured, recent, and detailed. I think I should say that again. Your reviews need to be AI ready, which means they need to be structured, recent, and detailed enough so that they can feed information into those large language models, right? So that they can actually pull that information and have a citation at the bottom saying, I got this from G2 or wherever it's citing from. Think about how your reviews show up when someone uses ChatGPT or Gemini about your product, and what would they say, and how helpful would the result be to them. But if you look at the stats, and I think the stats on this slide kind of speak for itself, but people are looking to purchase B2B tech are starting to use a variety of different methods. So we kind of have to realize, as a marketing person myself, how we shift kind of our strategy and our thought process to make sure that all of our reviews that we're putting or asking our customers to do are relevant, timely, and detailed enough so that those LLMs can pick that up. I'll tell you that G2 kind of helps you in that area because we do get cited quite often. And because I am a marketing person, I used to work in SEO at the very beginning before all of the different algorithm changes kind of made things a little bit more difficult there. But most people are saying that, win the click, right? That's an SEO type of thing. Now with generative engine optimization, which is GEO, you'll hear it a lot around here. With that, you want to win the answer, right? You want to make sure that all the information that you're putting out there about your product can help feed the LLM to make sure that you win the answer versus the click. All right, so what does that look like, and how do we break this down just a little bit further? Key geo metrics include how often your brand is mentioned. It's the sentiment that's behind those mentions, right? And highly cited websites and testimonials, reviews, user forums, or link citations, that's how you'll see you win the answer there. So AI models also look for consensus across multiple credible sources. So sure, it is picking up on G2's reviews, but it could also be picking up things that you have on your website or things that are being searched in those tools as well. So just like keywords drove SEO. Conversational prompts are now shaping GEO, that generative engine optimization. So buyers are asking more natural language questions. Your content reviews and brand presence need to align with the way that they ask them. So if you're looking at the slide, hopefully it's large enough, you'll see that at the top, those are keywords and they're kind of declining a bit because traditional SEO is, I don't want to say is being replaced, but it's being augmented by large language models. And so, but traditionally when I would think about, okay, what words do I want to pay for, or which words do I want to use for advertising, I would pick a set of words that went with my product. Now, I kind of have to rearrange the way that I think about that and say, how would I put this into a prompt? What would I ask, right? And so you'll see here kind of the transition that we're all of us, myself included, are having to do in order to make sure that we rank, as how we used to say it, rank in some of these websites. So this slide is saying that traditional search terms are trending down and conversational prompts are increasing, and how you can think about your strategy to ensure whether the buyer is searching for specific keywords, how they would turn those into search prompts or conversational prompts, and then how you get your products to show up in those citations. So really exciting stuff. I know it's a shift, but because AI is a fast-paced moving thing these days, like I think we all understand that we have to move with it. Otherwise we kind of get left behind. So the G2 advantage is reviews that rank. And we want to make sure, and Ryan's going to go over some of this when he starts talking about how we've changed a few things on the G2 website to make sure that your reviews can be discovered in this new technology. So G2 stands out because reviews are optimized for AI visibility, and the platform structure and credibility help rank your product higher in those AI-driven tech discovery conversations. And so this is going to give you a clear advantage when being surfaced in AI-powered tools. So very exciting. But let's talk a little bit more strategy, and then we'll go into some fun, cool stuff. Reviews are, we've gone beyond reviews being stars, right? Or, thinking of traditional review methods, right? We've built in the context. And if you use them to inform your product development or marketing messages and reinforce buyer trust, that's really what's going to help you kind of move up the awareness of that top bucket. We've built our site with SEO as the core, because obviously when we started building G2, it was when SEO was a big thing, but we've now adapted that to fit within the large language model user journeys. And this goes back to that shortlisting conversation we had before and how you drive awareness to your product via your category pages, your content marketing, and some alternatives. So that's that awareness bucket at the top. And then we've built specific pages to target these categories, and we can align how buyers are looking at reviews and content optimization from there. So that's kind of goes into consideration and decision. So let me just walk you through a few from each. I'm just going to do one from each bucket just so you can kind of take the high level strategy and kind of see what it looks like in real life. So from an awareness phase we're looking at category discovery, right? Like which categories do I need to look at if I'm looking for a different software to purchase? So ChatGPT is used and they're looking for onboarding software for teams. You can see the different recommendations, and you can see that G2 in that little box, if you can see it, is being used to surface the answer due to the amount of reviews you have on the G2 site. So when they click on the citation, they can go straight to G2 and see all of the reviews that are powering this answer, right? What is the best rated onboarding software for sales teams? That's what they're typing into ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT is going to give them a list. And it's more than likely, because I've been doing this lately just to test it, it's going to have a G2 citation at least. I'm going to go with at least 2 times. If there's 4, at least half the time. At least maybe my ChatGPT is a little biased. So thinking about how many reviews you have, how those reviews are coming up, and when those reviews were done is really, really important to drive that awareness and category discovery for your product. The second thing is once you move down, once you move down into the research phase, right, or the consideration phase with product research, this is using Perplexity as an example, and they're looking for the pros and cons of a SolarWinds database observability product, right? So again, when they've put that into Perplexity, it's really going to go out, it's going to gather all the information. And as you can see, a lot of this information is coming from a G2 cited source, right? Because there's G2, you've gotten that information out on your profile or on your product, and that can pull from that information on G2 and it can cite it here. And honestly, I don't know who doesn't love an AI summary that has pros and cons, because I totally do. But then you can also click into those and really understand where that information is coming from. And then also, once you get to the G2 website, then they can start doing comparisons if they need to. And finally, that bottom part, the bottom part of the funnel, which is that decision phase, which I think is one of the more important pieces, right, is product validation. So in this example, the buyers move down to that bottom stage. They're past the curiosity point and they're about to purchase, and they want to know about pricing. So, they're asking ROI and scalability in the question. And so we can pull information about that because there's details on the G2 website that point directly to scalability and ROI. And so that just reinforces the importance of making sure that your profile is up to date. You've got all your products listed, you've got reviews coming in, because that information is feeding those large language models to provide buyers this experience. So it's really important to make sure that, and we've gotten some new improvements to help make sure that that happens. All right. Before I move on to the more exciting stuff, not that this isn't exciting, it is, but we're working with our partner Profound, and we've been tracking thousands of prompts. And you can see here that G2 is one of the #1 sources that comes up in Gen AI search. And I think that's important because we have so many people on our website that are providing reviews. We have people who are posting their products on that. And so I think it's really important to understand that as we start to use these tools, we can see that G2 will be cited. And then, like I said earlier, when I do my searches, I usually get 2 out of the 4 that are G2. But again, like I said, maybe mine's a little biased. So it's just wanted to leave you with that tidbit. And so before I hand this off to Ryan, I promise I will stop talking. Now that we've talked about kind of the changes that have happened in how people are searching in that buyer journey with the new technology and how people are searching, we've launched some new features that can help you optimize your profiles and your reviews surface in ChatGPT and large language models. So Ryan's going to go into some new features. He's also going to show you them live. So very, very excited to have Ryan join me and share these awesome things.
Excellent. Thanks, Andrea. So my team is really focused around the multi-product experience here at G2, and that is to say, making sure that your brand positioning, your go-to-market strategy, and all of the ways that buyers interact with your content is in one unified, cohesive strategy. So we've enabled a couple new features on a couple different pages, the first being premium seller pages. So historically, our seller partners have really only focused around the product pages themselves, converting for reviews and generating awareness. Now we have these additional features around the company level page, which allows reviewers and buyers to highlight particular reviews and ratings, understand a little bit about the solutions and the products that you offer, as well as drive awareness at the top of the funnel so that they can understand company level information. We've seen a really significant uptick in the buyers that are coming to these pages. At the beginning of the year, before we were announcing these updates and enhancements, we were under 1% of total G2 traffic. We're now approaching 7%, which means that you really want to make sure that you're optimizing your brand positioning and all the content that's available here so that buyers are there and meeting your content where they're at. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so that I can take you into an example of this seller page and walk you through the different features and functionality from brand positioning. So right now you're on the G2 page. All of this is inline editable with a lot of great feedback from our seller partners that was a really critical feature, not needing to go into the My G2 admin center. So directly in line on your seller page, you can go ahead and update these brand treatments, whether that be the banner or the logo directly above that top line. We heard a lot of feedback that sellers wanted a little bit more control as to the types of products that they were focused on and how they were positioned on this seller page. So we added a featured products section. Now for non-upgraded profiles, these will just concatenate the top 4 reviewed products that are at your particular vendor level. But for the upgraded pages, you can add whichever 4 make the most sense to you. So you can highlight new products that have launched and maybe don't have as many reviews. You can highlight a group of products together that you're selling as a particular solution. And you have the freedom to rename this section so that you can change your positioning however you like. This is really great, especially as you look at new product launches or brand activations for event series. We actually did that ourselves with our AI in Action Roadshow. So a couple of different use cases was for updated brand treatments, new seasonal alerts or launches or campaigns that you might have, just giving you a little bit of extra use cases so that buyers can understand what's the latest and greatest from your organization. In addition to that, down in the subheader here, we've got new sections that you can edit for the about, whether that be the header, the descriptions, more details on your ownership, as well as ways to get in contact with your organization. As we continue driving additional traffic to these pages, it'll be very important to make sure that this is aligned with your overall brand strategy, that buyers have accurate and up-to-date information and positioning so that when they understand at the top of the funnel, they can then continue to convert down into the product pages, the reviews, and the CTAs on all of the following and cascading experiences. We'll jump back into the slides now to keep going. In addition to seller pages, we have a brand new experience that we're calling solutions pages. This is really focused around putting the control back in the hands of our seller partners as to how you position yourselves across a multi-product strategy, how you group those products in one sellable unit, and how buyers understand how you can solve their pain points in whatever go-to-market content that you may have. This is a very wide open templatized page where you have the complete control to add upgraded products, layer in your go-to-market content, as well as build buyer confidence by featuring social proof from all of the reviews underneath all of those individual products. The idea here is that historically, sellers have been very limited, and good reason, by the taxonomy of G2. It's very important that we continue to build the walls and make sure that we're comparing like products to like products. What this new experience allows you to do is to sit on top of the taxonomy, brand your products, and position your products in whichever way you go to market, and do so in an editable function that really speaks to the pain points of your buyers, allowing them to truly understand how your products work together as one cohesive unit. I'm going to stop there and give you an example for a solutions page that we have live. This is actually from a mock-up of SolarWinds. And this is pretty similar to what you might have seen from previous pages as a collection of purchasable products, right? Similarly, all of this is completely inline editable. So directly on page, you can go ahead and update all of the content, headlines and subheaders, and it's completely up to you. There's no approval process to go ahead and add these particular categories. In addition, we have 3 types of CTAs that you can append to the page. This one is set up for a simple link that gives additional content so that they can convert off property on your own website. We've also got the ability for them to download a particular file or fill out a lead form built in the same way as our MyG2 lead form. In addition, we've got a newly designed featured products section that showcases all of the different products that are within this suite. Now, any of these upgraded products are available to be added. It'll show you all of the different options here that you can go ahead and append to this particular page. And this is dynamic, so you can go ahead and reorder, pull, edit the image itself. Depending on what it is, you can go ahead and brand this whatever way that you like. And everything on this page is completely customizable, from the product header to the subheader, ensuring that no matter which way you decide to position yourself, it's going to meet your needs, and it's going to have your customers understanding exactly how you can support them. And then finally, we have a section for our social proof, which is powered by AI. Historically, on things like our seller pages, we would just showcase the entire listing of all the reviews that might be available. Now, based on the content that you upload on this page, our internal system pulls particular quotes from the reviews on this solutions page. And there's a tab here for you to go ahead and pin reviews that you like or don't like. Again, all of these are editable in line. For those that are unpinned, you can go ahead and refresh these quotes to pull net new pieces from these reviews, just ensuring that everything is available from a demo perspective. The concept here is really to make sure that if you have a particular direction, whether that be industries or market segments or end users of your potential target base, you'll be able to layer your products along with this go-to-market content in any way that makes sense to you without the traditional requirements to adhere to the different taxonomy and market research functionality. Ultimately, we believe that's going to create a very extensive experience for our buyers to be able to pull that content in a way that we previously never could. One of the other major features for solutions pages that we'll showcase on the next slide is really focused around the concept of multi-product reviews. And I'm going to take a second here to sort of explain this functionality here because it is a very new concept for G2. So historically, we've never had a way for a user to talk through and give a particular feedback on multiple products in one session, right? Users would have to come in and roll through multiple stages or multiple links in order to provide multiple product feedback. And that's always been a pain point for us. We've tried to solve this with a previous iteration of this page that had some issues with actually giving these products placements in things like categories or the grids. This new multi-product review functionality that's available through solutions pages solves that problem entirely. Users that access the multi-product review can now review any of the products within this solution. And what that enables is a cascading review form that allows products and questions that are duplicative to be pulled off of the cascading review form that comes next. So each form for each subsequent product gets shorter, and in one session, one user can submit 2, 3, 4, however many reviews are in that solution. They'll be syndicated as individual reviews. And the idea here is that through one session, you can affect grid placement and category placement across every product that gets reviewed. And although it's accessed through solutions pages, it's not tied together as a solutions review, because ultimately the pain here is trying to make sure that we can get as much feedback and as much high quality content from our reviewers as possible while pushing you up and to the right on the grids. That problem has been solved. And so utilizing solutions pages to drive that awareness and drive that consideration and drive that enhanced placement will be available in this new packaging.
Excellent. Really to kind of wrap up what those, because we're going to kind of take a little shift here, y'all, is these last few features that Ryan went over is that these are going to help drive your discoverability in that buyer's journey, right? We're talking about how has technology changed so much that we need to make sure that we're optimizing for those large language models. And the last three things he went over, multi-product reviews, solution pages, and premium seller pages, those are all built to help get you discovered on G2, right? There's more information, it's more rich. As Ryan was saying, this will help kind of boost those citations that we're seeing across those large language models. So really exciting stuff. Thank you, Ryan, for walking us through that. We will jump into kind of the other side of G2, and that's with our buyer intent information. So everybody, there's an option to add on buyer intent to if you don't have it today, but we did just launch new signals for buyer intent. And really what this means is all the review information that users are going and looking at, buyers and sellers, et cetera, whether you're posting or you're looking, is giving us information that we can then surface to you to help you move customers down your sales funnel or even help with your ABM strategies that you have out there. So buyer intent data is can give you all kinds of information about who's viewing your profile. Are they looking at competitors? Are they looking at comparisons? Are they looking at pricing pages, et cetera? And that information can be given to you via a variety of integrations that we offer. But we've also noticed and just, we needed to increase the signals that you're getting because we have more information to give you. And so that's where the competitive signal comes in. And then you're probably asking yourself, Andrea, I have buyer intent. I already get compare signals. How are these different? Because it's usually a question I get asked. They're different in the fact that the competitive signals are provided when buyers are researching your competitors in a shared category. So in other words, a buyer has viewed a competitor's profile, their pricing page, or their comparison page where your competitor is featured. So this is giving you a lot more signals and information about who might be looking at another person in your category, right? So if you're in a category, there's 10 or 20 of you in the category and you really only care about 2, let's just say, like previous role, I only really cared about 2 of my competitors, can actually filter down these signals to target just those 2 competitors. Because right now, when you look across these, there's a lot of volume here, right? There's a lot of signals that are coming in because you're getting a bunch of signals about who's looking at competitor pages. Essentially, what you can do is filter this information down and really understand which competitors you want to go after. So again, from a marketing perspective, when I think about what sales plays we want to run or what ABM strategies we want to run when it comes to our competitors, I can really focus my thoughts on maybe just 2 out of the, let's just say 4. And so this is giving you the opportunity to kind of refine the filters that are in buyer intent today to really focus on those competitors when it comes to the competitive signal. So these new signals can help you not only understand who the buyers are in that market. So if they're looking for onboarding software, they may not be looking at yours, they may be looking at your competitors. You can take that data and really fine tune some of your messaging, either from your sales team, or if you're doing nurture campaigns or win back type of campaigns, you can really focus on those competitors that you know you might be losing to. I think the other side of that is helping with churn, right? We all know churn is a huge thing right now in the industry in B2B tech. And so with that, you can understand if there are customers that maybe your customer today that is evaluating other software, and maybe your CSMs need to reach out to those customers and just be like, hey, reinforcing the value that we're bringing to you, because we can now surface those signals for you in some of our integrations, and that way you can jump on that churn risk. So maybe they're sitting at a medium level churn or a yellow churn rate. You can reach out to those and make sure that you're reinforcing how your product or service is providing value to those customers so that they're less likely to churn off. And I know it's not as black and white as that, but it gives you an indicator of who you might need to reach out to or prioritize when your renewals are coming up. So it's a really great new signal. If you have buyer intent, they should be flowing into your MyG2 right now. And then we also have a bunch of integrations that are coming out with that. So today we've got HubSpot, Slack, and a couple others that I'm blanking on right now, but we will continue to add more integrations across that competitive signal so that you can get those directly in whatever application that you're using. The next one we're going to go over is our ROI dashboard before we go into Q&A. So if you are using buyer intent data and you're like, I need to make sure that this is actually helping and impacting my sales funnel because this is for CRM. So if you're using Salesforce or HubSpot, the ROI dashboard, the performance analytics dashboard, is a way to show you how that buyer intent is affecting your sales funnel. Right? How are we doing? We've got all this buyer intent data. We've plugged it into our CRM. We're using it in different touch points with our reps. But how is that actually impacting the metrics and the funnel, the sales funnel that we have going on? So if you activate the performance analytics dashboard within MyG2, you'll be able to see some really awesome numbers of like how much it's been influenced by G2. So how many opportunities or how has your pipeline been influenced by G2 intent data? And that how long is it taking you to close deals, et cetera. So you'll see on that image there that you can really get an understanding of how much G2 is driving ROI for your sales funnel. So going even back to the competitive signals I was just talking about, now that we've integrated those in, that can help influence how you're winning deals, right? Has your win-loss rate gone up or down? And that can help, with those competitive signals flowing in, or even just profile visits or page pricing page visits, that can help influence where your reps need to where they need to kind of insert themselves into that sales process. So this is going to give you kind of the back end, like how is that performing? How are we meeting our revenue goals with G2 influence? And that was the last one that we had. So we can now take questions if we have any questions in the chat. Let's see. How can the competitive signal feature and CRM performance dashboard help a sales team in a competitive market? Yeah, so I personally, and talking to our customers about it, because we are running a bunch of customer meetings right now about this. The competitive signal I've found helps provide another opportunity to have a touch point with your customers. So from a CSM or post-sales perspective, you think that you're doing great. You're like, oh, these renewals are coming up. I've got this. They're in green. And then these competitive signals come in and they show that maybe they're looking at something else. Maybe they're looking at a competitor of yours. And so I think that can help create messaging, for your CSMs, or even depending on who's doing your renewals, right? That can help create that kind of personalization, or that touch point that your reps or your CSMs might need to continue that conversation and ensure that you're showing value of your product or service. Same with a CRM dashboard. The performance analytics dashboard is, you can really understand how much data is flowing in there, how those touch points that your reps are doing are helping drive revenue to your company, right? We love to see it when you can see the influence dollar amount by G2, but you can also see how it helps increase or improve your win-loss rate, because you're getting timely, the real-time information at the right time so that you can reach out. And we all know in sales that timing is everything. So as long as you're getting that intent data in the right places and you're inserting it into your CRM, you'll be able to see not only when your reps reached out, but you can also understand how that impacted your funnel. Really great question.
Yeah, just to add a little bit of color there as well. I think historically we've seen from our adoption metrics that sales teams really need everything in that CRM. They're really one-pane folks that are really understanding things as they are working across their accounts and going through the incredible detail that we can provide. So as we update that in real time, as we provide those insights that allow them to have that point in time conversation with that really specific type of content, allowing that integration to power those conversations achieves significantly better results.
Yep. I also see somebody asked in the chat about the average increase in win rates with competitive signal feature. I wish that I could tell you that it's that there's a number associated to it. It just launched July 1st. So we're still gathering some information from our customers. That's why I'm doing customer interviews right now, to kind of understand how that's impacting those win rates. But I can tell you in the last, 6 of the conversations I've had is they've integrated that into either Slack or HubSpot. And then they're surfacing those signals to their reps at the right time, or they're flagging them for their reps like, hey, we see that, this customer is also looking at our competitor, and they're able to flag that to their rep pretty quickly within the next, within the first 12 hours of that signal coming across. And then they're able to proactively reach out to that customer and just, again, say, here are the benefits, or here's how we are proving ROI, or maybe it's setting up a meeting with them to say, let me show you, in our case, let me show your performance analytics dashboard and how well G2 is driving that conversion for you. So the couple of customers I've talked to, they're really excited about how that can help improve kind of the timeliness of outreach when it comes to them looking at other alternatives.
In addition, if you are having trouble setting up this integration, please reach out to your CSM. They are happy to go ahead and get that set up with you. And we're very excited to continue onboarding new folks.
Absolutely. We love more customers.
Great, I can take this question. Data shows a forecast for significant declines in search volume for various software categories. How can G2's capabilities like seller pages and solutions help businesses adapt to this shift in buyer behavior? Yeah, it's a great question. And it's something that not just G2, but every online business is trying to tackle, right? Search volume is down all across the web, and all those eyeballs are so much more important and so much more valuable when they do come on site. So from that perspective, you want to make sure that if there are any levers that you can pull, if there are any additional pages you can optimize, if there are new ways to draw in eyeballs to your page that are really explicitly solving those buyers' pain points and problems, you want to make sure that you take advantage of that. And as we migrate folks to these pages, we're happy to help optimize not just for GEO, but SEO as well. As far as GEO goes, those charts from our previous presentation showcasing the amount of references across G2 really speaks to why you need to make sure that all of these pages are both live and optimized. Syndicating this content across our network is one of the best ways that you can ensure that you're showing up in these LLM searches. So you want to give yourself the best possible chance by creating great content and syndicating great content for reviews and solutions pages and seller pages, that's picked up by LLMs, and that your brand is top of the search results as those results come through. What is your best practice recommendation for getting reviews consistently so that they're always fresh? Great question, Madeline. We've got a number of ways that you can run continually running campaigns, and those can be incentivized campaigns in a number of different formats. And I highly recommend working directly with your CSMs to go ahead and get those live on the network. Outside of that, we also have in-app reviews, which is our best practice for making sure that folks that are live, both in your products and on your websites, can in real time leave those reviews directly in platform and then syndicate them back onto G2. There's so many levers that we can pull, and we do always recommend an always on strategy to ensure that you're meeting your buyers where they are and you're constantly collecting feedback.
Plus, that helps rank in those large language models, right? Recency and making sure that you're always getting those reviews coming in is also really important so that those citations can be made and customers can discover your product or service. So good question, Madeline. Any other ones? Pop them in the chat or the Q&A. We're going both ways. So feel free to pop them in the chat or the Q&A and we will answer them away. Or if you just need to consume this, maybe re-listen to it and then ask questions later, feel free to do that. You can always reach out to Ryan and I, or you can reach out to your rep or CSM so that you can get those answers. I mean, a lot of times it takes me a minute to digest information and then have the right question. So again, if it comes up later and you're like, I should have asked that question, feel free to reach out to your CSM or rep. I think let's see, I'm trying to scroll through here. No more, okay. All right, let me just go to the next slide so that you guys can get the information about how you can hear from Ryan and I again, but you can always go to our university and do certifications there. So the GTU certifications are free, they're on demand, you can do them at any time. It should help with some of this stuff too, right? Now that technology is shifting and, you want to kind of make sure that you're in traditional SEO, but you're also in geo. That would be a great thing to make sure that you go to our certification program. And then we have these sessions that we're doing today monthly. So I believe the next one might be on some new features that we have, but we have a wide range of topics that we cover in our monthly G2U Edge sessions. So make sure that you've follow along on our social channels. I'm sure we send out emails and stuff like that. So if there are also follow-up questions that you had, again, feel free to reach out to your rep or CSM. I want to say thank you to Ryan for joining me, even if you only briefly covered a few slides. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for listening and participating in this chat. Great questions. And I just want to say this might be my first G2 webinar, but it definitely won't be my last. So we'll see you guys next time. And thanks for joining us.